Welcome back, everybody, to Behind the Tool Belt, episode 276. I'm your host, Cobb-Backer, and thank you for joining us on this Wednesday edition. Today, we have another special guest. Stay tuned, and we will be back after our short intro from our sponsors.
Cobb-Backer. Roofing, siding, windows, gutter, solar. Roofing, siding, windows, gutter, solar. Cobb-Backer.
Welcome to Behind the Tool Belt, where the stories are bold, the conversations are real, and the insights come to you live, raw, and uncut. Every week, host Cobb-Backer sits down with game changers, trailblazers, and industry leaders who aren't afraid to tell it like it is. No filters, no scripts, just the truth. Please welcome your host of Behind the Tool Belt, Cobb-Backer.
Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Tool Belt, the podcast where we dive into the minds of industry leaders who are changing the game, construction, contracting, and beyond. Today, I have another awesome guest, my friend, Woody Casey. How the hell you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming all the way up here. So if I didn't mention yet, Woody's in studio live with us today. He flew the whole way up here from Dallas, Texas. And Woody and I have a little bit of a history. I met Woody a couple years ago. Vic and myself and I think Chris Hofstra ran into you at SRC in Denton. I think that was the first time we ever met at that ice storm in Denton, Texas, which is still one of probably my favorite conferences just because.
It was an incredible experience because being snowed in for several days, it was a core group of people. It wasn't very big. Sorry, April Hall. She puts on an amazing show every year. Yeah. It's my favorite of all the ones I get to go to. But attendance kind of fell off for her because of that snowstorm. But for those of us that were there, I got to know a lot of people very well in the 3-4 days that we were snowed in. So it was an amazing experience. I wouldn't recommend it for a conference, but having done it, I look back at that's some of the funnest experiences I've had as far as the conference goes, just being confined in a space with people and happen to get to know people because you're forced in. For an introvert, it's perfect for me to make me get out of my shell. So
yeah, I can agree with that. Same. And most people wouldn't believe it, but I'm also an introverted. But that show was a good show. I got to Steven Spence. Like you said, there was a core group of people. Steven Spence with Project Map It, got to know him real well. And there was a good core group of people. And I think the hotel handled it well as far as like not running out of supplies, because that was like my biggest concern.
There's a lot of things that hotel did behind the scenes to make sure that we were taken care of. And one was most people probably don't know this, but the staff didn't go home. They stayed there in the hotel. They gave them rooms. So they were on for a while. They'd be out, they'd get some hours off, and they kind of rotated. But yeah, the staff didn't go home. And so we got to see the same people over and over again. Yeah. And there was the odd night where I had to stay up all night, having fun. And the girl that did the breakfast comes down and she goes, "You guys are down here already?" She goes, "I'll get breakfast." And I'm like, holy crap, it's time for breakfast already. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So yeah, that was an odd fluke for me to be able to stay up all night. Yeah, I normally don't do that.
Yeah. So. No, we ended up staying up pretty late too. We actually we rented I think it was a Jeep Wagoneer, the new Jeep Wagoneer 4-wheel drive. We're from up north, so a little ice storm isn't going to affect us. So we went and found a Buc-ee's that was open. Never got to experience Buc-ee's before, and it was an experience that I will never forget. And that place was packed.
Yeah.
Like there was people from all over the country in this one Buc-ee's. I feel like all over the world. It felt like, because nobody was on the road. But when you went to Buc-ee's, it was lit up like a freaking Roman candle.
Buc-ee's is one of those that I didn't realize what a tourist attraction it is. Friends of mine from another state were there, and they're like, "Well, we have to go see a Buc-ee's." And I'm like, "It's a gas station. Why?" Like, "Well, we've heard about it. We've seen it. It's on our list of things to do." And it's like, okay, but they have gas stations everywhere.
Yeah. Bucket list. I can believe it. I mean, we've gone to a couple of them. There was the newest one that we've been to is right outside, I think, Greenville, South Carolina, going down 95, or Charlotte, maybe Charlotte, North Carolina, somewhere down 95. For us was the newer, like recently we watched it being built, so we had to stop in there, but I don't think we'll do it again. It's just too busy, too crazy. And we were hauling a trailer, the behind a tool belt trailer, heading south, and it's just too much. I don't know how truck drivers.
They don't allow truck drivers in there.
Yeah. Okay.
Semis aren't allowed in there.
Yeah. I don't blame them because we barely got through with the trailer on the back.
Yeah. It says no semis allowed.
Okay.
So
makes sense.
They, when they opened their first one, so the first one outside of Texas went to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, I mean, it made news, Bucky's expanding and all that.
I bet.
It's good on them.
Mm-hmm.
They've created a very definable niche, so to speak.
Yep.
And, they've branded some of their own stuff.
Yeah.
I was on a plane one time. You talk about happenstance kind of meetings. I'm on a plane one time with the guy that supplies the soda. Little small town guy that just happened to start supplying sodas to Bucky's, and then his company has expanded because of how big Bucky's has gotten. And he's like, I never thought I could get this big, let alone have a brand like this that carries me. He goes, I'm getting into other places because of them. So it's one of those things that, the high tide raises all boats kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And if you go into Bucky's, they got a few of the name brands, the top brands, but they're all this off brand, and nothing against that brand because they're good sodas. But yeah, it's just one of those things where they have this little supplier, or had a little supplier. He's getting bigger now. Yeah. But it's just right place, right time.
Yes, exactly. We were kind of talking about that earlier, where your network becomes your net worth.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect example of, providing a great service and a great product at a reasonable price, I would imagine. And now he has the opportunity to provide Bucky's with all their beverages, or their sodas, that particular soda, I guess. But no, it's good. It's good. So for those of you that don't know Woody, I guess we should probably introduce Woody, and, to tell us a little bit about, Woody isn't from the roofing industry. And I want to get into that conversation, like where that connection came from. And I'm sure you can share that with us from your background of things like that. But we met Woody at a roofing convention. And I get the privilege to be in a mastermind group with Woody as well. Vic got to share some time with him this past, what was it, January? This past January, I think we all went to Cayman, and Woody has been a huge influence on me, especially when it comes to stepping outside my comfort zone. Because scuba diving's not, I don't know, very comfortable at times. It's become comfortable for me, but you've been an inspiration for me of watching you and how relaxed you are in the water. Allows me to know that, this is fun. It reminds me, you watching you and just having fun under the water and stuff like that. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate you a lot. So give us a little background, tell us what industry you're in, and then how you got to this industry. Okay. And then what it was like, what it's like now, and how you got here.
So what you're saying and what I'm hearing is you want me to talk for 3 hours nonstop.
You put it into at least 30 minutes. Yeah.
My name is Woody Casey. I'm the owner of AJ's Dent. We are a paintless dent repair company. We fix hail damage on cars, minor dents, door dings, that kind of stuff without having to paint the car. I got into the industry in 95. Kind of a fluke. I was working in Omaha, Nebraska. Shout out to Eric. I was working at a place called Q's Automotive, and having graduated college a couple years before, and having realized that I was not built for corporate. I was not built to sit in a cubicle, and I was not built to play nice in those kind of settings. I learned I was fine in college, but when I got out of college, I realized that there's no filter between my brain and my mouth runs faster than my brain. So being in a corporate structure wasn't going to work for me. So I was working in an automotive industry, which growing up on a farm, I've got very good skills with cars, and I can fix almost anything except clocks. But I was working in an automotive, and one of the guys I work with had quit and comes in a week later, says he's learning how to fix dents in cars without having to paint it. And this is in 95. And I'm like, yeah, it's impossible. I've been around cars all of my life. If there was anything out there like that, I would have heard about it. He goes, no, it's true. And so I went and checked it out, interviewed, got hired, and started my career there. Worked briefly for that company. Those in the roofing industry can relate to not getting paid. I worked for 2 months. I worked for 6 months for that company for about 2 months for not getting paid. Left that company. There's a short story about how we got AJ's Dent, the name, but went on and started my own business and started working as a subcontractor for other people. Moved to Colorado in 98. Had an opportunity. I worked for a company called Auto Body and Glass from 97 to 98. They opened up some stores out there. I went out there. We parted ways about 6 months later, and I started on my own. Had a great time living in Colorado, working there, built a decent sized business there. The downturn in the economy in 07, 09, we took a big hit. I lost 30% of my body shops. They went under. Some of them owing me money, which caused some financial hardships for me. Came back from that, and we're still going strong. So, or still trying to go strong, I guess. And the second part of your question is, why am I in the roofing space?
Yeah.
So about 6 years ago, I guess now, shout out to Charlie Chena. Friend of ours went to work for him out in Vegas, and he was tied into Win the Storm. And I come into work one day, and Kim goes, Tasha's going to sell us tickets to a roofing convention, so we're going to do a Zoom call. And I looked at Kim and I said, we work on cars, not roofs. And she goes, Tasha's a good friend. And Tasha's done some of our marketing and some of our internet stuff, website design, and good friend. So she's like, we can spend an hour listening to her to give a pitch. She needs somebody to practice on. I'm like, okay, great. Sit down, and she goes through her pitch. She does a great job. Charlie's off screen a little bit, just coaching her here and there. She gets all done, and I lean over to Kim. I said, buy 2 tickets. I don't care what they cost. Just buy 2 tickets. It'll give her a first sale. And somebody who does sales, your first one's always our hardest. So let's just buy 2 tickets. We'll make her look good. So we did. A couple months go by, and Kim goes, hey, we got these tickets to that roofing thing. And I'm like, again, Kim, that's roofing. We're in cars. And she goes, but it's in Vegas. And I'm like, okay, we'll make it a company trip. I said, get your husband, get 2 rooms. We'll get tickets, airplane tickets. We'll fly out there for the weekend, call it a work trip, air quotes, and have some fun in Vegas. And I like to play poker. And, if I don't go to the roofing convention, I'll just play poker for the whole time. So we go out there, and of course we got to put an appearance because we did pay for the tickets. So we go down, and the first people we run into is the Valor Roofing out of Denver, Colorado, friends of ours. I'm like, oh, well, there might be people here we know. So start walking around. This is the first time I ever saw Sam Taggart. I watched these guys get up on stage and get awards for being $1 million producers. And I was in the process of trying to hire outside salespeople. And there was some roofing companies, a lot of roofing companies there, and starting to have conversations with them, realizing that we have a lot of things in common. We have to deal with adjusters who don't know what they're doing. We have to deal with insurance companies who don't want to pay for what we do. And at the end of the day, we have the same clients. They're customers who have hail damage on roofs, have hail damage on cars. So coming back from that event, and I can honestly say Sam Taggart's probably the one who had the biggest impact on me at that event. And just his mindset on sales and stuff made me start to think about that. So coming back, I sat down with Kim and our IT guy, and I said, I want something that I can present to roofing companies. There's plenty of crossover between roofers and paintless dent repair people. And I know plenty of companies in my industry that will see a roofer, a sales guy walking down the street and say, hey, for every car you bring me, I'll give you a couple $100. So that guy spends half his day shuttling cars back and forth for this PDR company, paintless dent repair company. And the guy who's paying him to be on the doors is losing money. So I didn't want to do that. So I wanted something that was transparent, something that I could be held accountable for, because going into it, I realized that those clients are the roofing company's clients, not mine. So I have to be at a high standard in order to get them to refer, because you don't want to refer somebody that's going to do a bad job.
Right.
if you're putting a roof on there and you outsource your windows or your gutters, they got to show up the day they say they're going to. They got to put on a quality product. Otherwise, it makes you look bad. So I want something that where if 6 months down the road, there's a problem, the roofing company can call me and ask me, and I will know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So part of that process was that we use Job Nimbus. It doesn't work for my industry, but it works great for yours.
Mm-hmm.
So we started using that as our CRM so that we could track every interaction with every customer. So you can call us 6 months from now and ask us what happened. The other thing that I told my IT guy was I want something that gets it when we get the leads, we know where it came from, and they're not just out handing out business cards. So something that was trackable. So he built us a web page. So we built a landing page for every roofing company that we work with. It's logoed with their logo, and it's a little bit about us and a little bit about how the process works. But most importantly, there's a client fill-out form on it. And they fill that out. We get an email. It shows us which roofing company sent it, which sales guy sent it to us. So, because we pay commission back to the roofing companies for it. And our checks don't go to the individual sales guys. They go actually to the roofing company, because I want every owner to know what their guys are doing. If they're giving us leads, if they're not giving us leads, what the return is on that. So I want everything to be able to go through the company owner first and then out to the sales guys.
Mm-hmm.
So we pay commission back to the roofing company, and then they split up between them and their sales guys. So that's kind of how all that kind of came about. And we've had the privilege of working with, I couldn't tell you how many roofing companies, but we've worked with quite a few, mostly in the Hell Belt, Atlanta, Chicago, Minneapolis, Denver. Our brick and mortars are Denver for 20 years, Dallas, Fort Worth area for 8, and Minneapolis for 3.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That, for someone like me, that makes complete sense. You know what I mean? But and that's why I wanted you to explain it to our viewers here, because once they found out that you own a dent and repair company for vehicles, they're probably like, why? What's the connection? You know what I mean? And I'm asking that question because I asked myself that question when I saw you in Denton. So that's why I wanted to explain to you. But that makes so much sense. And it's a funny story too about Wind the Storm. It's funny how Wind the Storm has had such an impact on our industry, whether people want to admit that or not. Jana and I's first roofing conference 10 plus years ago was Wind the Storm. And I was so excited, to go because, conferences, there wasn't many back then. And so we went out to Vegas, because I think the first few at least were in Vegas. At least the one that we went to was in Vegas. And we went out there and we came back different. Like, first and foremost, we thought that we were hot shit on a silver platter. But when we got there, we realized real quick that we were just a cold turd on a paper plate doing the volume that we did at that time. Okay. But because of that, it had opened our eyes to so much more. And we discovered that we weren't by ourselves anymore. And you said Sam Taggart had an impact on you. Well, Scott Riapala, I don't know if you know him or not, Interstate Roofing. He was one of the speakers there. And he is giving me goosebumps right now. Just thinking about it, had such a huge impact. His personal story resembles a lot of Jana and I's personal story. And so it resonated. Everything that he was talking about, from the ebbs and flows and personal difficulties and professional difficulties and everything. Like, basically, he just shared his story up on stage. It wasn't like he was dropping nuggets out there. It was just more inspirational.
He's a true bootstraps. Come from nothing, made something.
Same. It's giving me goosebumps right now. I mean, and then we ran into Eric and Paul Reed for the very first time. Met Eric, and I was terrified to go over there. Again, I'm an introvert, right? So on the expo floor, everybody's got their signs up, and it said roofers in recovery. So that could mean one of two things. That could be, recovery. There's a lot of insurance adjusters and claims and just it's an insurance storm restoration recovery, conference that we're at. But we were kind of like, what is that? So Jana, being the little social butterfly that she is, she walks over to their booth, and basically their booth is like 3 couches and a coffee table with just some dudes sitting around cutting it up. And Jana was like, "Hey, what is this about?" And of course, we learned what it was. And of course, this is like the greatest day of my life. We listened to Scott Riopala on stage. We're at a roofing conference. We're not in this by ourselves anymore. It just opened up the whole roofing industry to us. And so it sounds like you kind of had that same aha moment when you came back home. Your juices were flowing.
It's yes, in a way I never really imagined. We talk about this a lot. I don't really consider myself a smart person, but I know I am in some ways. But when you meet people like Sam, like Scott, like Paul, and other people that are in the industry, and I've got a lot of friends in the industry now that they may not be any smarter than what you are. They just think about things a little bit differently, and learning how to open your mind to other possibilities. In my industry, I've made a lot of mistakes. I was very closed-minded for a long time. I was very, being an introvert, I got a lot of things on my plate for a long time, and I did very well with it. And then that plate started to shrink, and I couldn't figure out how to get off and get another plate, so to speak. And so my plate started shrinking. And then 07, 08, 09 hit, and it really shrunk. And I struggled, and I went back to what I knew, which was traveling and chasing hail. And yeah, I could make great money do that, but that's not where my passion is. I wanted to build my business, not work for somebody else's business. So going to the roofing conference, and I tell this to everybody in the roofing industry, I have better friends and more connections inside the roofing industry than I ever did in my own. And it's weird to say that because I've been in mine for 30 years. I've been in roofing for like 6. Not that I'm actually in roofing, I'm just
in the space. Yeah, right.
I'm in the space.
Yeah.
And the friends I call when I need somebody to talk to are in the roofing industry. The friends I call when I need advice, the friends I call when I have a great day, they're in the roofing industry. They're not in mine. And it's amazing how the roofing industry is where I wish my industry was. My industry is starting to get there, but it's a decade behind the roofing industry. We're still in my industry. There's still a lot of cutthroats out there, a lot of shady characters, a lot of guys who do business every year and then change their company name so they can hire new guys and screw more people over. And I know that's happening in the roofing industry, but you guys are rising above that a lot faster than we are. And I really love that about your industry, that you got guys who will put on mastermind groups with other roofing owners and be supportive, even if they're in the same market. It's amazing to watch that and that camaraderie and that kinship fellowship that's there. I absolutely, it's one of the things, like, I get goosebumps sitting here talking to you about this, because it means so much to me, because I've been able to do things in my life that I never thought I would. Some it's from the connections I've made in the roofing industry, and some it's just from the industry that I'm in, because it's like roofing, it's good money. Yeah, I have a college degree, but I got a lot of friends that are in my industry that maybe not made it out of high school, but they're making 6 figures a year. I've traveled all over the world. We talked about this before in scuba diving. There isn't hardly anywhere in the world that you can go scuba diving that I haven't been. My list of places that I still want to go to is small. My list of places I want to go back to is very huge. And I get that freedom and that financial ability to be able to do that. And my girlfriend and I are going to the Maldives in a week, and I can't wait to take her there. I don't get too excited about things until I get there, because I've had bad trips, but I'm talking about it like this. I'm fucking excited about going. I get 10 days. I get to go scuba diving. I get to show this stuff off to a girl I love. It's amazing to me. So, and I can truly say that scuba diving is one of my biggest passions. So,
yeah, I know that for sure. And I've got to witness that and experience that with you, alongside with you. You mentioned something earlier, about not being the smartest guy, and I think, it sounds negative, but I know you're not putting yourself down. And then you did follow up with saying, in certain facets, certain areas, right there, or you don't think of things the way that other people might. And I think as business owners or parents or leaders of whatever, I think that can be one of our greatest strengths, knowing that we do have deficiencies, weaknesses that we're not so good in. So And obviously you've identified that. How long did it take you? And we talked about this earlier before offline here, but how long did it take you to be able to put the pride and the ego down? Like, when did you identify, like, look, I'm going to raise my hand. I'm waving the white flag here. I need to surround myself around smarter people. Like, what was there a moment? Was there a tragedy? Was there something in your career where you're kind of like, you know what? I need to open up and I need to start asking for help.
So probably a little bit of it started. There's a couple of turning points in my life. One was realizing that family's not family. That family will take if you let them. And I thought that I could be the Superman and the hero for everybody, and it cost me a lot. So coming on the backside of that, I had to kind of change a little bit. But when I say I had to change, it probably took me 3 or 4 years. In our mastermind group, Eric's talking about trust. And for me, it's trust. I got to the point where I didn't trust anybody. And not to go too deep into this, but I told you I went to therapy a long time ago. And what my therapist told me is, when the people that teach you how to trust, meaning your parents, break your trust, it is hard to recover. And so there's a point in my life, and I can't pinpoint it specifically, but it's probably 8-9 years ago, where I kind of just threw my hands up and said, okay, God, if this is what this is the way you're going to treat me, I'm just going to just open up and let everything happen that can possibly happen to me. I'm tired of being closed off. I'm tired of living a negative life, so to speak. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to start trusting people until they prove I can't. And then I'm a pessimist. I tell people I'm a pessimist with an optimistic hope. And it's funny, and people are like, well, why are you a pessimist? Well, if you believe the worst, the only true things that surprise you is things that are better. So if you go through life as a pessimist, your emotions that come to you are happiness and joy because things are better than you expected them to be. Whereas if you're an optimist and things happen, then you're the opposite of that. You're sad because bad things happen. So if you expect the bad things and you plan for them, then everything that happens to you is easy. You know, the one of my favorite shows is Navy SEALs, and the only easy day was yesterday. So if you kind of look at life as, you wake up, you know it's going to be a battle, but you're prepared and you're going to get through it. And then tonight when you go to bed, you can reflect on it and see how well you did. So back to that trust thing. So I started opening up. I have a Kim that works for me. She's my operations manager. She has stuck with me through thick and thin. She's been with me now, I think 14 years, 15 years, something like that. She's seen the good in me. She's seen the bad in me, and she's still there. Her family's my family. So Kim has, I should say this on the air, Kim has access to everything I own. If she really wanted to screw me over, she could. She's probably the one person in my life that she has my personal bank accounts. She has all my information. She has every password I have, because she's the person who runs most of my business life and my finances. I have to trust her to do that. And I do. She's been a wonderful person in my life. She's happily married, so not to me. But yeah, it's trusting her was probably one of the ways that got me to start trusting others. And I look at people who are surrounded by a lot of great friends, and I tell people I don't have a lot of great friends. I have a few friends that I greatly admire and appreciate. But over the last 6-8 years, my friendship circle has grown immensely to, I couldn't even tell you how many friends I have now. You know, it's been a complete changing. But back to your original question was, I don't know when that really took hold in my life. It's been a very gradual climb for me. It's something I struggle with. You know, we talked about judging people based on appearances earlier. I still fall guilty of that. And I'm pleasantly surprised a lot when people aren't what they thought they were in a negative way. So
Yeah, no, great response. I like, it was a great answer. Like
very rambling.
not knowing when that exactly took place in its progress, right? It takes time, I think, because I was just sitting here thinking back to like that I'm still not perfect at, I still want to know all the answers. I still want to be Superman. I still want to get in there and help people. But I think there was a tragedy in my life where it began, I think. And it may have started even before then, but, and I talk about this a lot, it was the passing of my mom. And before she passed away, I had the privilege to have her move in with us for a couple of years up until she literally passed away in our home. And, we were out one night and everything came through my cell phone. Everything came through. I mean, all of it, sales calls, repairs, service, everything, leads. It was the company phone. And I always answered it, but I was really burning both candles at the end here. I was, not that I was taking care of my mom. My significant other, Jana, has, God bless her too, took care of my mom full time, basically. And at that point in time, she had worked at Cobb-Backer Construction. My son busted out 2 kids back to back. We got 2 beautiful grandchildren. So at that time, it was kind of like a decision we had to make. Jana, who I had lost, who was my ride or die co-pilot and drove me because I had lost my license for a long, 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 long time. I think almost 15 years total. And so Jana drove me to the appointments, sales calls. I mean, all of it, measurements, meetings, all kinds of stuff. But anyhow, we decided for her to be a stay-at-home grandmom and take care of my mom at the same time, which was beautiful for both my mom, her, and the grandchildren, Joel and Quinn. And so I had lost, my voice of reasoning. Not that I couldn't talk to Jana, but she wasn't with me every day. But anyhow, we went out to dinner one night. And my mom said 2 things to me that were very profound. And we've heard these a lot, but I heard it. First thing she said to me is that life is too short. No shit. Right. Looking at a woman who's battling her second bout with cancer. And she said, you need help, was the second thing she said to me. And boy, she had no idea how true that was, psychologically, physically, mentally, emotionally at that point in time, because the phone rang. The phone rang and I actually red buttoned it for the first time because that's how I fed my family. That's how I was able to have my mom move in with us and take care of her. And not that my mom, they own a bar and a restaurant. My dad's still with us, thank goodness. And, so they own a bar and a restaurant. And I grew up in the hospitality industry. And, but I heard what she said. And I think that's when, for me, my guard, I have trust issues. I always will. I work on it on a day-to-day basis. And I really feel like a lot of it comes from not just pride, and ego but it's fear of trusting people and I think a lot of it had to do with my old misbehaviors. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like if your significant other is accusing you of, cheating on them all the time, chances are they're probably cheating on you because they have a guilty conscience. And I think for me, growing up in my profession here, because I've literally used to be the youngest, but now I'm one of the oldest people here at Cobb-Backer today, the top 5, I would say, of the old heads. I'm an old head today, right? I guess if 50-ish is considered an old head, but anyhow, I feel like, so I went and I tried to find some help and we had a great team, but I didn't run it that way. Like I didn't empower people. Like they kind of waited outside my door and waited for me to give them direction, opposed to empowering them to make decisions on their own, kind of thing. And the culture was good. It's a good way to run things if you want to stay relatively small. But I knew that there was so much more. And I felt like I had a lot of time to make up because I had pissed away most of my childhood and my teens and early 20s and just pissed away and just felt like, finally I got my shit together and I got to make up for lost time. So like I'm running, put my head down, running. And then when she passed, like how I grieved with it was I went to work. and I worked hard and I still really haven't even looked up the enjoy it yet, I think. But anyhow, I knew that I wasn't the smartest. Okay. I knew I wasn't the smartest person in the room, and I heard it. I read it. I'd listened to it someplace where it's like, I needed to surround myself around smarter people than me in certain aspects of my professional life. And so I had to find these people that I trusted, maybe not with my personal bank account and things like that kind of trust. But I understand having a Kim, and you've spoke very highly. So if Kim, if you're watching this, Woody has never had an ill thing. He always says very positive things about. So whoever this Kim chick is, man, she must be a rock star. But I too have a Kim here that has been with us for 11 years now. I've had Perry, who's been with us damn near 17 years now. And these people who are smarter than me. If it wasn't for Perry, we had a decision to make back in the day. Do we go with Peachtree Accounting or do we go with QuickBooks? And back then, I don't even know if Peachtree is still around. We chose, thank goodness, QuickBooks. Perry helped get that up going. Like, I'm not a CPA by no means, so I delegated and empowered. Again, here we get empower people to and leverage their strengths, because Perry's pretty nerdy and he's good with Excel. And guess what? The engine behind QuickBooks is pretty much Excel spreadsheets, right? Kim came in, she's good with numbers and very organized. And that way gave Jana some time to kind of back away from the business a little bit. And then like Chris Baker, we got Glenn, like all of these really smart people that are making decisions, right, on a day-to-day basis. And they're probably having a meeting upstairs right now that I don't even know what the fuck they're discussing. Right. But if we want to be and want to have impact and want to empower people and create change in people's lives, we have to let go. And I think if you can really have that mindset of, getting the ego, getting the pride, getting the fear, removing fear. And again, I'm not saying that it doesn't creep in every now and then. And I don't wonder, what the hell are they talking about? Are they talking about me? Are they talking about how shitty of a leader I might be? And that's crazy talk. Do you know what I mean? But I do feed myself shit sometimes, and I know that I'm the only one that can really blow this thing up, meaning in a bad way. If I stormed out, if I'm having a bad day and I take it out on them or and rip away that responsibility that I gave them. And I think by me removing that nobody can do it as quick and as fast and as hard and as long as I can, because I thought that I held on to everything for so long, too long, and thought nobody could do it any better. This is what's crazy is I think everybody in this building has done everything that I've ever done way better than I could do it then and definitely now.
For me, it was control. I'm a control freak.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know everything. Like you said, I know everything,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to be involved in everything.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those side effects of not trusting people is not sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I don't know if Kim knows I tell this story, but I owned a men's salon for almost a year. And Kim made a mistake one day. So I came in the next day and we were going to have a conversation about it. And I said, why did you make this decision? And she goes, because of this, this, and this. And I was like, well, what about this, this, and this? She goes, well, I didn't know that. And my problem is information. I was always taught information is power, and power is what you want. Mm-hmm. I realized that for me to be more successful and to be better, I have to freely give all the information I have. You may not agree with it and you may not understand it or whatever, but it's my job. And I tell people and this all the time that I'm going to overshare. I talk too much. I know that. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell you too many things about myself, about my personal life, about all the bad things about me. But I always figure that the more information people have, the better decisions they can make. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of a turning point for me and Kim and our relationship, was the realization that if I'm going to let her have the power to make the decisions, mm-hmm. I also have to give her all the information I have. Mm-hmm. And I tell people this all the time. If I die tomorrow, the company's not going to suffer. But if Kim dies or quits, mm-hmm. I'm screwed. Mm-hmm. Because she does so many of our relationship is very symbiotic. There are a lot of things that I'm really good at, and there are a lot of things that she is really good at. And the thing is they're not the same. There's overlap, but there's not that much overlap.
Yeah.
People in my life, girlfriend, get upset because I don't know what day of the week it is. I don't know what's on my calendar. I don't know what's my schedule like, because Kim does. And if I want to do something, Kim has to put on my schedule so that I know that it's coming up. I can lose months because I got my head down and I'm working and I don't know what. Someone say, hey, this trip's coming up in January. Yeah, we got months. Dude, it's December. Okay, that means I got to start figuring that out. So I don't think of a calendar in linear. It's kind of abstract for me. So you can tell me something's coming up in October and I'm like, okay, and I'll forget about it. I don't think that it's 5 months away or 6 months away or whatever. It's abstract. It's out there somewhere. So the other thing that Kim has helped me do is get the rubbish out of my brain. I'll come in, and we don't do it now as much as I used to, but we have what we call data dump days, where I'll come in and I'll have 15 different things rolling around my head, and I can't think straight because they're cluttering up my mind. And so I'll tell Kim, and she'll write them all down, and then we'll go through and cross out the ones that are bad ideas, and we'll look at other things about, hey, let's find somebody that can do this for us or do that, or this is something we're going to work on. And unfortunately for Kim, a lot of that falls on her shoulders to get that stuff done, because I think of these things and then I need to implement them, but I have no idea how to implement them. So I have to make her go find somebody that can implement that or teach us how to implement it or make us better. So yeah, for me, it was learning to give up control, and I still struggle with that.
Yeah, me too. And I think transparency, you touched on transparency there. It's like the more information that we divulge, the better off we are, because the more that we hold on to and the less that they know, they can't perform at the level that we're expecting them to perform at, and less mistakes are made.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because she made a mistake, and I think we deal with that too. And realize those aha moments. Like, it sounds like you had like an aha moment, like, well, no shit.
I tell everybody that story about Kim, and I know Kim takes it good naturedly, like she should, but for me, that's so key for a lot of us, that we were talking about salespeople and giving in and potential. And, we look at people and we hire them based on what we think they can accomplish. And then when they don't, is it because we didn't pour enough into them, or they're not performing on their own? And me just pouring everything I can into somebody, one, I get emotionally attached to that person as an individual. I don't want them to fail, but also having enough realization that you can't make somebody succeed if they don't have the drive, the work ethic to show up every day and get it done. You can train somebody to be the best, but if they never implement it, they're never going to be. So that's kind of that dichotomy. And we talked about that. I told you about that NFL coach that said, son, your potential is going to get me fired. And I have to remind myself of that when I am looking at somebody's performance. Are they performing to where they should be? Are my expectations too high for them? Am I not allowing them enough grace to fail and then succeed? Or are they just not performing because of something on their end?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a hard look inside. And for me, I don't always meet my own standards. In our mastermind group, I talk about sales, that's where I struggle, and that's what I'm trying to hire and get done. But I don't always hold myself to that same accountability that I hold that I want to hold the sales guys to.
Right.
So
that was weird. Things got glitchy. Now, I'm guilty of that too. I'm guilty of not holding to my own standards that I expect everybody else to. And I'm also guilty of not giving enough direction. I don't know if I assume people should probably know certain things, or I expect them. It's funny because I was talking to Jana last night. I think it was last night, about being able to read my mind. Like, what do you mean you can't read my mind? Like, and she's learned how to read my mind, because I was giving Tam shit the other day. I was like, you need to know what I need before I know I need it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like Jana was like, she can't read your mind. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know if Tam would be watching this or not, but we were kind of having a discussion about Tam, my assistant, because not that she feels by no means she has definitely improved the quality of my life and the business, just because of like yesterday, she was like, don't forget this, don't forget this, don't forget this. And then 5 minutes later, she knows me well enough to remind me again. Did you do this? Did you do that? Did you do this?
Yep.
You know, and it's like, we need that. But getting back to like the direction thing, like I've been using, there's a cemetery over here. I've been using that as a metaphor here lately. You know, I'm guilty of telling people, just go to the cemetery with zero direction. Just get over there. You'll figure out what you got to do when you get over there. Okay. Well, then they're kind of like duped to doing their way over there, trying to figure out like, why the hell is he sending me over to the cemetery? When all along, what I needed you to do is there's actually an oak tree that's in that cemetery over there. And every time the wind blows, it's damaging the top of one of the tombstones. Okay. Well, if I would have gave you just that much clarity, you'd be like, oh shit, okay, grab the chainsaw, run over there. But then when you got over there, you discovered there's 2 other oak trees. And because of the empowerment, right, they already know. They might say, hey, there's 2 other oak trees over besides one. Do you want me to take care of them? Yep. So they're over there. They clean up the oak trees. Well, then they discovered, shit, there's leaves all over the place. Maybe I'll rake it up. They'll rake up the leaves. Then they discovered, hey, the grass is getting a little too tall. Yep. Mow the grass. Then they can start seeing the actual faces of these tombstones. They're like, hey, we can't read the words. Maybe we should power wash it. Right. But with just that little bit of clarity up front, right? It doesn't even have to be a whole lot, but just some direction. Right. So they're not like trying to figure it out. And then I'll get pissed because they didn't figure it out with very little. Just go over to the cemetery as far as directions go. Right. Because I'm guilty of busting people's shit up. Like, what do you mean you didn't figure it out? Just figure it out. You know, and for the longest time, Glenn's job description, he asked me what I had went through and asked everybody to write out their job descriptions for me. And Glenn calls me up. He's kind of pissed off at me a little bit, quite frankly, because one, I think he thought that I thought that he wasn't doing enough. And that's why I wanted everybody to write out their job descriptions. It had nothing to do with that. And Glenn's like, and he was like, what is my job description? And honestly, the only thing that I told him is whatever it takes. And that was good enough for him. Like, it really was. But like a year later, I'm like, that's not good enough either. Like, I really literally have to. So here, most recently, I'm writing clarity notes to everybody from Ty. Clarity notes from Ty. And I've done 4 so far. I've reviewed 3 of them with 3 of our teammates. And after the conversations, because we're implementing some new things and some changes are coming and stuff like that. And it pertains to people's jobs and their descriptions changing a little bit. So, and I've discovered, and I've known this a long time about myself, you know, because I'm a visionary like you. I'm not the integrator. Like, I don't know how to do this shit, but we're going to do it. Right. I'll have these great, grandiose freaking ideas. I don't know how to F we're going to do it, but guess what? We're going to find someone, or you're going to figure it out how to do this. And I know that about myself. So anyhow, giving more direction and being more clear, I think, is something I've recently have really trying to hone in that skill, because fortunately it is a skill and it's something that I can work on and I can get better at. And that's only because if I'm not clear on the vision, how am I supposed to expect our teammates to be clear on what they're supposed to be doing every day and the importance of what it is that they're doing and how it affects everything else?
Clarity is, you sparked something in me just with that. You know, I'm trying to hire salespeople. Mm-hmm. And I just think salespeople are salespeople because that's, you know, not being in the sales side of things. Right. To me, it's like, go out and sell. And like, how? You're a sales guy, you should know how. You know, so having that clarity is something that is definitely something I need to work on. And when you talk about job description, Kim and I have a running joke that her job description is written in pencil because it's subject to change at any moment. So you can erase it. Yep. And change it whenever I need it to be. Your job is whatever I tell you your job is.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, and basically that's what I was telling Glenn, like, whatever it takes. But that was enough motivation for him to be like, okay, whatever it takes.
We talked about that a little bit earlier. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got from somebody was, you know, not being the smartest person in the room and hiring the smartest person in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about A and B students work for C students. And when you give an A and B student clarity and direction,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to follow that to the end of the road.
Yep.
But if you do that with a C student, they're going to go, okay, and then what?
Mm-hmm.
Or they're not going to go on that path because it doesn't fit their, the way, their brain works.
Mm-hmm.
And I have this conversation a lot that my brain doesn't work linear. It works abstract. It's a visionaries, it's, I'm all over the board, so I can't sit and be task orientated as much as I used to be able to because my brain whirl, and it's off on another tangent. I'll be in the middle of a conversation with somebody on the phone and forget that I'm in the middle of a conversation on the phone and start dialing somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done that. And it's like, crap, I forgot, sorry, because they hear me, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, fuck, I was calling somebody else. It's like, crap, so I've done that. And I, the thing is, I can say I've done it more than once, so it's, my brain just doesn't always work the way other people's do. And it took me a long time to realize that it was okay to do that. And to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably when you're talking about, coming into your own and figuring out your own path. That for me, one of the biggest realizations and I saw, and I told a friend of mine this a long time ago that they asked what I was thinking. And I said, you really want to know what I'm thinking? Or, like, yeah. I'm like, okay, imagine a merry-go-round with 12 horses on it. You got the lights, you got the music, you got the disco ball in the middle. It's flashing lights. It's loud. Each horse in that merry-go-round is a completely different topic. And I'm thinking about 4 at any one time. Mm-hmm. And if you imagine 4 of them being lit up and then one's going to start to dim and 2 more. So I'll be thinking about 5 and then that's going to drop down to 3 and then I'll be back to 4. My brain just scatters out like that. And somebody will have a problem, something in the business or something, and I won't have the answer right away. And I will kind of ignore it. And all of a sudden in the back of my brain comes this flashing beacon of, oh, here's how it's solved. Mm-hmm. Here's how you fix it. Here's your operation. Here's the plan, the procedure, whatever. And it just shows up in my brain. But if I sit there and concentrate on it and try and fix it, I can't get the answer. But if I let the back of my brain just have at it, it's amazing. It'll come to me either late at night or first thing in the morning. And all of a sudden like, oh yeah, that's how we do it. So,
yeah. No, I'm a lot of the same. It's funny you were talking about trying to call somebody else while you're already on the phone with somebody else. Yesterday, I caught myself. I called somebody and put my phone down and jumped on my laptop. Literally forgot that I called somebody and I could hear them. And I was like, oh shit. They're like, Ty, because I didn't have it on speakerphone. Yeah. So I'm guilty of similar things to myself because my brain, it moves 100 miles an hour. And for me, I call it my twilight. Some of my best solutions or ideas come to me right before, I don't know if I'm waking up, but I'm still asleep. Okay. And I'll have these like aha moments of like, this is exactly what we need to do to fix this. Or some of I think my best ideas come to me in that twilight, like when I stop thinking and stop being so fixated on a solution for something, because that's not conducive to me. Is like, I'm trying to force a fix. You know what I mean? It's like, but if I can just walk away from it, for a little bit, that usually always the idea of what we need to do or the direction or the vision that we need to go in, that's when it comes to me. Now, I am also good at like, this morning, Baker came to me and he was like, hey, there's something that transpired overnight. I need your guidance on. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And it was just kind of like, bam, bam, bam. Okay, cool. Yep. No, we'll just do this because of the experience that I do have and the empowerment that I've given him. I was kind of actually glad he came to me looking for advice. Because I had, experience in that similar situation that he's dealing with or dealt with, this morning. But big, grandiose, things, because like I was telling you earlier, this winter has been rough for us up here, this past winter, and things were slow, which slow means cash flow slows down. I'm already thinking of next winter. Most people just show up to work every day. They don't even think about, maybe they're thinking about Friday and payday, on Monday, and that's not a bad thing either. But I'm already thinking, what can we do? What can I control? I can't control the weather. I can't do it. So one of the plans that I've come up with, obviously we're kind of it pulling things back, things like I had a Verizon cell phone. Okay. We use AT&T. I had owned a landscaping business for about 5 years, acquired one. And this past winter, we decided that all of our contracts ended. We had a 3-year contract with a local county, and everything just it was just that it worked out good. I saw a window, I jumped out of it. I was like, look, we're off the hook. We're done. Nothing was wrong. It was profitable. It did good. But I knew how busy this roofing season was going to be with some new larger accounts that we landed, more sales reps, because we also do a lot of new construction and different avenues, insurance, new construction, retail. We're kind of have our irons in a couple different fires, because I've learned going through 7, 8, 9, and 10 that you can't keep your eggs all in one industry or form of roofing that we do. Shit, I kind of lost my train of thought here. Where the hell was I going with that, Woody? Help me out here.
Don't ask me.
Okay. Squirrel. I just had a squirrel moment. But shit, I totally forgot where the hell I was going with that. And that's one of the
I do that too.
Yeah.
You go down a tangent and forget what your point was.
Yeah, I totally forget what the hell my point was on that. You have no idea? Okay.
Well, it's thought process and getting somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, so I'm thinking of next year, things we're pulling. Yeah. Oh, so the Verizon, so it was $150 a month. That's $1,800 a year. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's given me time to kind of go back through and dissect things, because there's no sense in spending $1,800 a year on a Verizon bill that Horizon no longer exists, and everybody knows it was TC-Backer anyhow. So if there is something that they want to call us for, they'll just call the number here, because we rebranded everything. It was red, black, and white. It looked, if you out of your prep view, you would have thought it was a TC-Backer truck and not a Horizon truck, because we complemented both facets, and we still do some landscaping, but not at the commercial scale that we were doing. We had a bunch of commercial accounts and stuff like that. But so we kind of just dissolved that, brought the manpower, brought the vehicles, brought the resources over. So there's been changes coming, because I'm already thinking about next year. Like, we're not going to do snow plowing next year. It just turned into an overtime freaking fuckery free for all of overtime that people, not that they didn't deserve it, but it's overhead that we don't need to absorb next winter if there is another long winter. Right, between equipment breaking down, the financial burden that creates, and then the trucks down, and we're not getting out to these parking lots fast. It's just this whole thing. It was like, you know what? We don't need any of that stress. So through why this was happening to me, right? Because I wanted to look at it like, why is this happening for us right now? It had me dive back into what we can do to improve things next winter, and that's being the visionary. Right. I might not be able to do all of these things right myself, but because of the team that we've created here, it's kind of like, all right, we need to make sure we cut back on overtime next winter. We need to dissolve Horizon. We need to get rid of the Verizon bill, along with all kinds of other things. Could I sit around and make all these phone calls all day long and delete this and subtract that? And yeah, of course, but because I've learned to trust my team, I guess circling back to the whole trust thing, I don't think this is where I was going with this, but at least we're not just oddly staring at each other right now without saying anything. But to circle back on our conversation of empowering other people and trusting other people, thank goodness I've been able to trust people enough to handle things that need to be done within the business, even when my back is turned.
And it goes back to surrounding yourself with people. My favorite thing is just surrounding yourself with smarter people, and part of that, and to go back to a little bit what we said at the beginning was, being the dumbest guy in the room. I don't say that from a self-deprecating or self-grandiosing kind of a thing. To truly learn to be humble around people, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, about being in a room full of people you respect and being vulnerable inside that room. To me, it's created avenues and it's created friendships I never thought I could have. because I don't come in there with my chest out and a big head on my shoulders. Trust me, I've got an ego. I've got pride, and I still have that. You asked that earlier. When could I set the pride aside? 20 minutes ago, or 20 minutes from now. I'm very prideful, you look at where I came from and the amount of traveling I've done and the things I've got to do all over the world and see. I'm very prideful in my stuff, but every once in a while, when I get a little bit too big of a head on my shoulder, the man upstairs kicks me in the nuts and says, pay attention.
Yeah.
This isn't about you. There's something else. And you talk about, why is this happening for me? I love that mantra because I just had this conversation with a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago. He's going through some issues, and it's like, remember, you're going through trials and tribulations right now for a reason. It's either prepare you for something that's coming, which is probably the truth, but you don't know what's coming up. And it could be a couple years ago, a friend of mine's, her dad died, and they were very, very close, and she was upset, and we were having a conversation about it. And she's like, I can't understand why God would take such a wonderful human being, my father, this, that. And I said, you have no idea. I said, there may be a time when you're standing at the airport and you're in line with somebody who just lost their father, and you can offer words of comfort and words of wisdom to them. And it may be only a 5-minute conversation, but that conversation can mean the world to that person. And without you having gone through what you went through, you wouldn't have been able to help that person in that moment. So, yeah, our lives get hard. Our lives get tough. And there are things that I've gone through that I'm like, why? Why do I have to go through this? Why is this happening to me? We talked about my 2023 year, which was a crap year of a year for me. I don't know why I went through that. I probably never know, but I got through it. There are times where I was outside kicking a tree because I was just angry at the world and angry at everything. But I got through it. I'm not as financially set as I would like to be where I'm at right in my life right now, but there's a path forward. And every day, like I said, we get up and we take that extra step and we go one more step, and pretty soon you're going to be there. So, it's truly being humble is very hard. It's a lot harder to be humble than it is to be prideful. And we talked about being comfortable, being uncomfortable, and that's part of it. I'm putting myself in places where I'm extremely uncomfortable. Roofing shows, conferences. Last year, I spoke at 3 of Chad Michael's events. The smallest was 150, largest was like 300. Wow. Being up in front of there for 10 minutes terrifies me. I get tunnel vision. I have a hard time just putting words in front of each other just to get them out. And I've only got, the first time I spoke was like 3 minutes. The last time I spoke was 9. I got more comfortable doing it, and it wasn't as bad. So, but yeah, it's still tough.
Yeah, it is. Being resilient too, bouncing back, after bad news or a bad situation or even a bad year. And having the tenacity to just keep moving forward. I think that's the thing about entrepreneurship, that social media lately or nowadays or always has been, doesn't show, that it's always the glam shots, and it's never the ugly stuff. And if it is ugly stuff, it's usually somebody pointing other people's shit out. Right. And they're probably the ones that are pointing the finger have 3 pointing back at them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this isn't easy, and it hasn't been easy. It's, we've been doing this for 17 years now, and it's not been easy. There's always, a correction year here and there thrown in the mix, or just an off year. And it always looks pretty on the outside, but it isn't. It can quite frankly get pretty ugly at times.
That's one of those things about social media, is nobody ever posts their negatives. It's all about the trips, the pictures, the wow moments, but you don't see the 23 hours and 50 minutes of all the crap they got through to get that 10 minutes. And I'm as guilty of this as anybody, being jealous of other people's success. And I've had to teach myself to be grateful for other people's success, and to offer genuine words of, I am so proud of what you accomplished. You and I talked about what happened to us in the past and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Where you're at today isn't anywhere near where you used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations. You know, being able to say that and genuinely mean that, sometimes it's a struggle for me, because you look at people who you don't think work as hard as you do or put in the effort you did, and they were blessed with a storm at the right time, or they hired the right person to create their sales team that made them millions of dollars. And you're like, I don't know where you're struggling trying to figure that out. Why are they winning and I'm losing?
Yeah.
They're just winning differently. You're still winning. If you wake up every day and you go to work and you're trying, you're still winning.
Mm-hmm.
And congratulations for that. You know, but sometimes it's a struggle, and that's pride saying, why is it them and not me? You know, so having kind of trying hard to put my pride and my jealousy aside, which I struggle with, to be able to be happy for other people's accomplishments. To me, that's one of the biggest things that probably turned the corner in my life, was that attitude of gratitude, that you learn that, dude, just because somebody else is successful doesn't mean you can't be.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like there's limited amount of success out there, you know, and everybody's success is different. You know, you look at, I'll use my mom's generation for an example. Their greatest success was raising a family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they didn't care about jobs outside of the home for the most part. But nowadays, that level, they don't look on them the same way. But you raise kids and put them out in the world and they're doing fine and successful,
mm-hmm.
that's success.
Yeah.
You know, that's just a different level of success. You can see guys who have all the money in the world and a crappy home life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, their kids are worthless, and they may be successful in business, but they're not successful at home. So success is relative to how you define it. So
yeah, however you want to grade that. Now, it's funny you brought that up, because yesterday I felt like I had a pretty successful day, and it wasn't financially, it wasn't, you know, monetarily, it wasn't even professionally. I felt like, you know, Jana had to go to the doctors and get some medical procedures done. And I was grateful that I was able to leave work and go and be there for that and take her and bring her home. And then later that day, my son called me, twisted his ankle, and he called me. Right. I picked him up. I was available. Right. And we were sitting in urgent care last night for a couple hours. And, you know, I wasn't like, gosh, dang kids, you know, I got better things to do. My mindset was, man, how grateful am I? I would rather not be anywhere else but right here with him right now. You know, and I felt like that, to me, in that moment, because I don't always have those moments, that attitude of gratitude of how successful that to me, I had a successful day. I was there for my family all day doing dad shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. And how grateful I was to be able to do it. I was also at work. I was in and out doing, you know, I didn't let anything over here fall to the wayside or anything like that. You know, but that's not what I meant by the successful part of it. The successful part of it is that I was there for the household. You know what I mean? Because Jana's usually the one holding the fort down. You know what I mean? She works her ass off now more than she probably did when she worked here at Cobb-Backer every single day, taking care of all of us knuckleheads on a day to day. And it wasn't even like, it's my turn. You know what I mean? To babysit, you know, I don't babysit my children. I'm a fucking father today. You know what I mean? And do dad shit. And that's how really, I look at work as success too, but not as important as I used to. Like my priorities are a little bit different today. And I think that just is maturing as an adult today a little bit, and not letting my ego and selfishness get in the way of like, man, I should be at work right now and you know, making money. And, you know, it's not, you can have all the money in the world and still be miserable as hell, you know, and I've been there, I've done that. And you know what? It comes and goes and ebbs and flows, man. And it's like I had to seek out happiness in other realms outside of money.
When Junior, my son, was little, I did pretty well. Not great by anybody's standards, but I did well. And I didn't make six figures in a year. You know, my average years were 40 to 60, but I was a stay-at-home dad. Well, not stay-at-home, but, you know, I worked. But when you talk about success at that time in my life, my success was my son always made it to practice because I took it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I never missed a game, you know, from the time he started soccer up until high school. You know, I went to every practice, every game. I think in all those years, I think I can count on one hand the number of practices I missed because I was out of town.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, that's my greatest achievement, was being able to do that for him.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I mean, now that, you know, he's on his own and 32, and yes, I am that much older. But you know, that's one of those things I think about, are those days of watching him practice and watching him play and just being on the sidelines, you know,
Mm-hmm.
just enjoying the fact that I got to do that. You know, I'll take that to my grave.
Mm-hmm.
So
no doubt, man. No doubt. No doubt. Well, we've been on here for an hour and 12 minutes, and it's getting to be close to 1:30 here, Woody. And I know you got to take off soon, but
I do.
Thank you for sharing your insight with our audience, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Hope it was entertaining for everybody.
No, it was great. It was great. You did a great job. So thank you so much for coming on, and thank you everyone for joining us on this episode of Behind a Tool Belt. And if you found any value in today's episode, share it with someone in your crew, and make sure you subscribe for more interviews with leaders in our trade. So until next week, you guys take care of each other. And again, Woody, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yep. You guys have a great day.